Today we're going to discuss Dan Bongino, his exit, and what it actually means. There's something that came out that stated, why he exited. Now, if you remember a few months ago, I actually said that he would be the first to exit. It wasn't any foreshadowing, it was just the writing on the wall to where he wanted to change Washington. And then I think he realized really fast is you can't. We're going to discuss the successes or failures so far dealing with FBI and Bongino and how he could not play the game. That was a good thing. But we're going to discuss what was just said about Bongino. Also, we're going to discuss what a BlackRock insider just stated. He said the plan for 2020 was so much bigger than what people thought. And it was so much more evil than people thought. We're going to discuss what he stated because he's telling you the quiet parts out loud that no one wants to talk about. We'll talk about it, we'll talk about the dangers of it, but ultimately what we don't realize is these people do not like us. We're also going to discuss what is happening when it comes to Christian conservatism. We're seeing the left, of course, pull away from Christianity. We see the right that is becoming more Christless. We see the fact that there has been threats on Christian schools and Christian churches all over America. That's not counting, again, that they're canceling Christmas and New Year's celebrations all over the world because of the danger for Christians. What we're seeing, while our mind is on everything else, we're actually seeing the persecution of the church and Christians alike. We're going to discuss all this and so many more stories. Let's dive in and let's try to find some wisdom through it all and common sense. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here. Again, we're so humbled each and every day that you come back and watch our content. We hope that our content is eye-opening, thought-provoking, but more than that, you gain some common sense and wisdom as we try to navigate this crazy world that we live in. Now, let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's talk about Dan Bongino. And really more than just Dan Bongino, we need to talk about the Trump administration in the fact of facing the bureaucracy. Everybody's getting upset with Trump coming out and supporting people like the Lindsey Grahams or the Tony Gonzaleses, and all these people are just rhinos and really have no value to a true conservative. I think what we fail to see is exactly what Dan Bongino failed to see. Dan Bongino just walked out, of course, and resigned effective of basically January 1st. But basically what we saw is he wanted, truthfully, I believe he was a staunch conservative, wanting the best for American people and wanted to get to the bottom of it. What I think he found was the bureaucratic class is way too big. And even the people that he called friends, the Patels, the Trumps, those kind of people have to realize the game has to be played. So does Trump truly like somebody like a Tony Gonzalez or a Lindsey Graham or a Mitch McConnell or a John Thune or Mike Johnson? Probably not. But he's learned that he's got to play the game. Doesn't mean we like it. I think it's a cop-out. And I think that's what Dan Bongino is not doing, is he's not playing the game. I believe Kash Patel is trying to play the game. I think he's loving every minute of it. And sadly, I think this is what happens when good people go to Washington. I believe they want to change, but then when they get to Washington, it is just so overwhelmingly evil that it cannot change without something major happening. I want to go to this story with Dan Bongino. This is from Zero Hedge. It says, no arrests, but more developments. That's what we're hearing from the administration. It says, the frantic ceremonies of Christmas shopping and climaxes now. The stockings are hung, chimneys are getting cared for, but bottom line is, Republicans are living in a dark era where nothing is getting done. It says you feared that there would be things that came out that would actually be seismic. You were hoping for that. The Democrats feared for that. We didn't see the people like the Brennans, the Clappers, the Comeys, the Strocks, the Hillary Clintons, the Mayorkases, the Monacos, the Rosensteins, all these people. Jack Smith, Elias, no one got arrested. No one has been brought for charges other than the few like Comey, and then cases were just thrown out. It says no arrest. Only the Congress and the bureaucrats crying about the damages done by the Democrats. But nothing has been done. Anyways, here you go. Dan Bongino, good old Danny, has left the building, visibly sadder, but maybe even wiser. Let's go along with this article. It says, what we're seeing is this guy was a first-class American patriot that wanted to change the world, but realized he could not. And see, he surely took the job, I think, to be very important to the president and to be able to utilize the FBI to go through and get rid of some of the darkness and expose it and actually bring people to justice. I think what he saw was, it's not happening. And if you remember his interviews, they're very emotional. He loved his show, he loved his people, loved his wife, loved his family, and then he left it all for Washington to sacrifice to really get nothing accomplished. Not to blame him, but to blame the swamp. And I think that's what we've got to realize. As much as we want things changed in Washington, I'm sorry, I don't believe it's going to change. And you can call me pessimist, you can call me a fearmonger. I'm just telling you the truth. What we've realized is people like the Madison Cawthorns, the Dan Bonginos, the people that really want to change Washington end up getting kicked out or resigning because they cannot change Washington. Think about what Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent has exposed. They've exposed so much criminality, and yet nothing is done. Bondi has not done really anything. She's brought up a few charges. I mean, for instance, this week we have the Epstein drop. Oh my gosh, everybody's so excited. What did I tell you back at the very first of the year when we heard this was going to happen? Of course, it never happened until right now. It's going to be so heavily redacted that nothing's going to come out other than a few random pictures of Bill Clinton swimming in a pool. This is what we've got. Sadly, the left and the right, the establishment and the people all in Washington have one goal, and it's themselves more than you. I know, and I honestly believe Trump wants to do well for the American people. But I honestly believe he knows unless he plays the games, nothing gets accomplished, and they will destroy him like they've tried already. I think that's why now you're seeing John Thune and Mike Johnson knowing there's an election coming up, so they need Trump at this point. So what they're going to do is push all this stuff through, even though they had a whole year to do everything and fix a lot of problems, they chose not to. In all retrospect, basically just stating, well, we're going to prove to you that we can hold every agenda item up while you sit and wait. And now it's going to be like, well, we're going to scratch your back now, so you scratch ours. So he's going to have to really support all these rhinos. It's such an evil situation. And honestly, I believe that Dan Bongino just realized it. Now, here's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, well, Dan's going to come back. He's going to expose everything on his show. No, he's not. He can't. No telling what kind of NDAs he had signed and what kind of threats he had upon him. Bottom line, he's going to come back and try to take a show back and probably be successful, but ultimately knowing in his heart how evil Washington is and how much he wishes he could change it and couldn't. I think he will lose respect for a ton of people in Washington, not because they're not good people, but because instead of holding to their backbone, holding to staunch conservatism, they've had to kowtow. And I think that includes Bondi and Patel. I was a huge Patel fan. Not because of his religion, he had some crazy kooky views there, but when it came to the thought that I think he was going to fight the establishment, I thought he was. And boy, I was wrong. It's not because he didn't want to. I just believe his hands are tied and he can't. And I think now it's just like, man, he's got a gravy train, private planes. He's got stardom. Basically, he's dating a country star. He pretty much has he can pretty much speak whatever he chooses to. He can go wherever he wants to. He probably sees a lot of intel. And I think the trade-off is he truly doesn't get to actually change anything about Washington. That's the danger of Washington. And I will say this. I believe as much as I wanted Dan to do something good, as much as I personally didn't watch his show much just because it was just timing, and I think he's a great guy, and I think he had a great Patriot show, the thing I think the worst about is he couldn't change anything, but honestly I respect him more that he's willing to walk away from it instead of just stay there. He's willing to say, you know what, I can't do anything. And I'm okay with that because now I would rather be with my family, go back to what I was doing best, and get away from the slime of Washington. Because I believe the longer you stay in it, the more you become it. And I think that's what's happening with most of the people in D.C. They go to change, but then they end up getting changed themselves. I want you to listen to this minister that I thought was good. He sings, he does these big worship conferences, Sean Fute, and I love what he says here. He said, what we're seeing is not only a Christless Washington or Democrats. He says, we're actually seeing a Christless conservatism that will never save America. He says, the endless drama, the chaos, and unending political theater for the cliques and for the conservative, quote, movement is nauseating and destructive. He says, I pray for the movement because a genuine revival is got to happen, or America and the nation that we call America will never turn back to God. and we will keep on depleting. Now that is just extremely wise there. See, I think that's what you're seeing with this infighting. I made a post on Facebook and Twitter, and if you follow me on each of those, you need to. But I made a post saying that really the whole TPUSA thing was just such an embarrassment to me for the Republicans, because it was so much infighting. It reminded you of a primary straw poll. You know, when all the politicians go to Iowa or go to New Hampshire and they all just kind of cut each other down, and ultimately it's just for a poll. TPUSA is supposed to be going towards moving the Republican establishment coalition together. And yes, we cannot disagree. I mean, we cannot agree with everything, but pretty much we agree that we need to go for the dangers of socialism and the fight against the Democrats, and hoping to see the midterms come great, and then again 28 with presidency. And all it was absolutely infighting. Ben fighting with this, Tucker fighting with this, Steve Bannon fighting with this, Megyn Kelly fighting with this, Jack Posobiec fighting with this, and then you have people like Erica Kirk, who, again, I just think that she shouldn't be in the limelight right now. I think she needs to be a grieving widow, but I think she's trying to hold it together. But ultimately, she comes out and basically states it's just a soap opera. And that's exactly what it's become. It's become a fight, and it's going to absolutely destroy the Republican movement as a whole. They had to kick, Myron Gaines out of there, which is, again, one of Candace's buddies, who is an open Muslim. You have 2 weeks before Charlie passes, talks about the biggest danger is Islam, but now you have Tucker on his stage as a keynote, literally saying that we should embrace Muslims. And then you have the most successful governor, no matter if you like him or not. Ron DeSantis has been the most successful, most conservative governor in the United States right now. And you don't even invite him to be at the event? And so we're seeing this infighting, and what we're actually seeing is the dismantling of the conservative movement for something more like what Sean Feucht was just saying, this Christless movement of conservatism that's basically going to either get encapsulated by the rhinos and the establishment, or it's going to be so fringe that it's going to be scary, like the Candaces and the Myron Gaines and the Ian Carrolls. We're destroying the only chance we have. So with the exit of Dan Bongino, it proves that Washington is a swamp. You see Trump having to back people like the Tony Gonzaleses and all that. Doesn't mean he likes them or not, but he's got to, because he knows if he doesn't scratch their back, they do not pass his agendas. And sadly, that's where you get playing between the 40s. It's all a political farce. And then again, there's no strength in the Republican Party. At one time, Charlie Kirk was talked about being like a VP for J.D. Vance, like running, and you're like, that would have been amazing. But sadly, it got taken away from us. And now the whole conservative movement is falling to pieces. It's heartbreaking. While we're dealing with all that, I want you to listen to what was said by this BlackRock exec. And I've talked about Ed Dow before, but I want you to listen to what he stated, because, again, this is what I'm scared of. We focus on Ben and Tucker and Megyn and all these people, and we're actually losing the fight when it comes to conservatism versus liberalism and the world's global push for crypto and surveillance and AI and all this stuff that we should be fighting against, that we should be trying to have freedom and liberty with. We're choosing not to. I want you to listen to what Ed Dowd said about BlackRock and about what 2020 really was about. It says, according to Ed Dowd, which is a former portfolio manager for BlackRock, the thing that went in our arms were designed to take care of the pension problem and ultimately calls for a demise for a certain group of individuals, so then you could see the monies get bigger and that the population get younger. He said it was a true replacement theology. He said, I know we don't want to talk about it. He said, I know we think that this was all for the good. He said, what you should realize, and this not only come from him. If you remember, I've talked about Michael Yaden, who was part of he was a Pfizer team, hub executive there in the C-suites. Both of these guys who were on the inside of BlackRock and Pfizer, both stating that this was a ploy to harm Americans. So when we hear the fact of infighting, we see the establishment running the good people out like Dan Bongino. While we're dealing with all that, the truth is we're losing the battle for America and its soul. We're falling in pure depravity where we're getting people to ultimately replace us because of mistakes they made. So now they're going to use something to annihilate a whole group of individuals. And it's worked. 94% of people that took the first round has got some kind of debilitating disease or some kind of autoimmune disorder or has passed away. So that means they're either hooked on medicine or in a very bad state. And do you think that didn't play right into the favor of Pfizer or in this replacement theology? I mean, it's honestly so scary. And then on top of that, you see the Republicans, they can't even agree on the simplest of things to say, well, these are the things we should target. And we have the administration that won't arrest any of these people when we know insiders are being whistleblowers stating for the obvious of what took place. I.e., that's why Dan Bongino left, because all the things that's been exposed, nothing has been done. Not one single arrest. Few indictments, but nothing more than that. Now, last point I want to bring up, and this is the part that scares me the most. While all this is going on, the depravity of our nation is happening more and more. As Sean Fuchs said, we're starting to see a Christless conservatism or a Christless basis for America. Prime example of that. Multiple Christian schools in Kansas received threatening messages overnight, including threats, bomb threats, and forced evacuations. All of these were forms of Christian schools or Catholic schools that had promoted Christianity. It says these threats we're hoping are nothing to them, but they're automated, so we're going to, of course, go check. I want you to listen to this. There's events closed all over the world based on Christmas and New Year's and supporting the birth of Christ, all because of the threats of Islamic terror. It says what we've seen is the destroyment of Australia, France, and Germany now having to cancel everything they thought of when it comes to Christian activities, and churches being very open with their faith because they are getting threats upon threats upon threats from radical Islamic terrorists. Now we have one of the conservatives, Tucker, basically condoning all this, while the other ones are condemning it, and then the infighting starts. And again, why? Just like he said, while we're infighting, we're losing the battles, and Christians are the ones getting persecuted. I want you to listen to this. This was Hillary Clinton stating that she says the hardest part is to try to train people to ultimately get away from the mindset of people that historically ran our country. And what she was basically stating was the conservative, white, Christian, straight man has been the biggest problem for America. Now, honestly, do we honestly believe that? That the founders that were made up about 96% Christian, the rest of them, they said, were mostly some kind of theism, believed in a God, but just not Christian. But 96% of them that signed the Constitution, that believed in the founders, that believed in America, were Christian-based, white, straight men that wanted to see a place for their families to be raised. The Puritans came over for that reason. And now you have politicians who, again, are trying to distract you from the Epstein situation. Hillary Clinton comes out and states that, well, to be honest with you, the real problem is not Islam. Is not this other religion. It's absolutely the white, straight male that's a Christian. She's saying that. Now, let's go back to what Tucker said. He said the problem is really this Judeo-Christian state that's not embracing this Muslims. That's exactly what he said. Go back and watch. That he says, as Christians, we should just support them. That's what the Pope is saying too. Just support them. So everybody on both sides of the aisle now are saying, well, I mean, we need to embrace this Islam religion, and really the problem is not Islam. It's actually the white straight man that's a Christian. That's the problem. All the while we're canceling all these events all over the world, and we're having death threats to Catholic churches and Christian schools, and we want to blame the white straight male while we're allowing for Islam to rule over our nations. This is the European Union has thwarted another 5 or 6 different terror attacks all over the European Union, basically the UK and Germany and France. They can't stop them all, but they're trying to stop some. Well, it's like, well, if you wouldn't imported all that, then you probably wouldn't have the problems that you're having. On top of that, do you realize the money that we're flowing into these areas? I mean, we're giving the Taliban $50 million a week. Do you think they're going to use that for the good of their people or use it for the harm of us in Israel? It's so sad to me where we're at. And we're seeing now people like Hillary Clinton, people like Tucker Carlson, people like all these individuals, the establishment, telling you that we're the problem and that Christians and not being more, open to all these religions are the problem. And truth be told, that's not the problem at all. But if they can distract you long enough, they get their way. Why has no one talked about the BlackRock Pfizer situation? Why is no one actually getting arrested from that list that Dan Bongino's article had? Because our focus is on infighting. Our focus is on the rhinos. Our focus is on hopefully trying to win the midterms. And to be honest with you, we ain't got nothing passed for the first year, so why in the world are we thinking the American people is going to support Republicans? They've got nothing. All the while, we're losing. And the white Christian man is the one that's actually getting hated upon the most. Here's what's so sad. I'm going to bring up two people that you would have never thought would actually be the ones supporting some kind of Christian theology or American first, freedom, liberty, and hoping to see the Christian conservative white man stand up. Elon Musk came out last week, and again, not a Christian, but he said, what we don't realize is when we have men that are following their God and following a God and following this Christian religion, and again, because he's not a Christian, so he doesn't know how to talk about it, he's not speaking Bible terms here, but he's saying, if we take that away, we're going to lose a lot of things, because what we're realizing is those people tend to be the ones that are wanting the best for Americans. And then I'm going to bring up Vivek. Vivek, who is a Hindu who does not believe in Christ, who is running to try to be a governor of a conservative state, actually really brought a lot of truth to TPUSA, saying that we've got to quit this infighting and fight for one thing, which is freedom and liberty, and quit fighting over the petty stuff that Charlie wouldn't have wanted us to fight over. Isn't it amazing how the people speaking truth are the people that are looking from the outside saying, here's your problem. And the whole time, we've lost our way, and we just keep on keeping on fighting each other and losing the battles right in front of us. And ultimately, here's what I believe. Here's the honest truth. I believe just like what Sean Few said. We're now seeing a Christless Democrat Party, of course. Now we're seeing a Christless conservative Republican Party. And then you're going to see the persecution of the church here, like you saw and like you're seeing in Canada and like you're seeing in the UK. Please heed this warning. Because if we're not careful, we're going to see the good people like Dan Bongino keep on walking out. And all that's going to be left is pure, dirty swamp. And nothing's going to get done. And you're going to see a Christless move and a pull away from true Christian values. And we're going to be the ones blamed for it as the true bad players. And America will cease to be its power that it should be. Please realize these people are not here to help you. They're here to do whatever it is to benefit themselves. And until we realize that, I think we're going to keep on being led straight to slaughter, because what we got proven with the mortgage crisis that happened in 08-09 was blamed by basically the banks and the government. The 2020 situation was really just a replacement thought pattern by some of the other ones dealing with money. And now we're seeing power grabs with crypto, we're seeing power grabs with AI, and ultimately we're seeing less freedom and less liberty than we've ever had. And it's not a Republican or Democrat thing, it's just pure evil. And I think that's why you saw Bongino walk away. Sadly, I believe if you're going to see true Christians and true conservatives, sadly, I believe you're going to see a lot more walk away. And the people that don't walk away are probably already swamp creatures as it is. Guys, give me your thoughts on today's video. Again, I would just beg you to pray for our nation. Our nation needs it. Our children need it. Our grandchildren need it. Because it's going to be, I think, a tough road coming very, very soon. Let me know your thoughts. God bless.